Thanks for joining me again as we explore another great classic film. This film launched the career of a screen icon, a man considered to be a lovable rogue both on screen and off. It catapulted the leading lady to stardom and on to what would turn out to be a long and impressive career. It tells the rousing story of drama on the high seas, and it is from a director who made many great films during Hollywood's golden age. It is Captain Blood from 1935. Well, based on the Raphael Sabatini novel Captain Blood, His Odyssey, this is ultimately a remake of the 1924 silent film Captain Blood, and it came hot on the heels of other popular remakes, Treasure Island in 1934 and The Count of Monte Cristo the same year, effectively reviving the swashbuckler genre in Hollywood. It was a big gamble for Warner Brothers, as it was an expensive production costing $1.2 million without featuring any marquee names in the cast. Highly experienced director Micheal Kurtiz was attached. Kurtiz had begun directing in 1912, working all over Europe before moving to the United States in 1926. At the time of the production, Kurtiz was a mid-career director with some of his best work still ahead of him. This was his 111th in a career that spanned 178 films and would include Casablanca, The Adventures of Robin Hood, and Mildred Pierce. Robert Donat, who had starred in The Count of Monte Cristo, was initially cast in the title role but had to turn it down because of his chronic asthma and concerns that the action sequences would be too strenuous. Second choice, Leslie Howard, was unavailable or uninterested. Frederick March, Ronald Colman and Clark Gable were also considered, while in the background inquiries were made about Cary Grant, who was at Paramount at the time, but all were rejected. Warner Brothers had recently brought a relatively unknown 26-year-old named Errol Flynn to Hollywood after seeing him in British B picture Murder at Monte Carlo, and after screen testing George Brent, Brian Aherne and Errol Flynn, they took a gamble on Errol. The role of Arabella was initially offered to Marion Davies. Betty Davis and Anita Louise made screen tests. Jean Muir was also offered the role but pulled out when Robert Donat did. So finally, 19-year-old Olivia De Havilland was cast in a role that helped establish her as a star. At the time, De Havilland had starred in 3 recent films, including A Midsummer Night's Dream for director Max Reinhardt. Basil Rathbone looked perfect for the part of French pirate Levasseur, but felt that he was miscast. Rathbone was the best fencer in Hollywood, having studied fencing in his youth and during his military service, twice winning the British Army Fencing Championship. However, since he was always playing the villain, he was required to lose all of his film duels. Filming began in August of 1935 and ran for almost 3 months. Nearly everything was shot on a soundstage in Hollywood, apart from a few scenes shot at the then undeveloped Laguna Beach. No full-size ships were used for the battle scenes. The sequences relied on a combination of process shots, miniatures, and footage from silent films The Seahawk from 1924 and The Divine Lady from 1928. The final battle sequence between Blood's pirate crew and the French ships used one of the largest technical crews ever assembled, with the battle scenes requiring 250 extras. As this was Errol Flynn's first major starring role, he was nervous during early shooting, and Micheal Kurtiz needed to reshoot Flynn's early scenes when his trademark confidence had returned. Flynn also suffered from a bout of malaria, which he had first contracted in New Guinea years earlier, and this caused him to collapse at one stage during shooting. Kurtiz drove Errol Flynn through up to 10 takes per scene, and by the end of the shoot he had exposed 60,000 feet or about 11 hours of film. 6 editors worked to reduce the film to its final length of about 11,000 feet, or just under 2 hours. Errol Flynn and Micheal Kurtiz worked together 12 times, including on war films Dive Bomber and The Charge of the Light Brigade, on comedies The Perfect Specimen, which Errol likely believed he was one, and For's a Crowd, on swashbucklers Captain Blood, The Adventures of Robin Hood and the Seahawk, on westerns Dodge City, The Santa Fe Trail and Virginia City, on a horror film called The Walking Dead, and an historical drama called The Private Lives of Elizabeth and Essex. Despite this, their relationship never developed beyond an intense dislike for each other. Flynn didn't fare much better with Olivia De Havilland, who he made 9 movies with, usually as her love interest. He frequently played pranks on her during filming, including leaving a dead snake in her underwear, which left her traumatised. This was the first film to feature the music of Erich Korngold, one of Hollywood's greatest composers. Korngold was given only 3 weeks to compose more than an hour of symphonic music, forcing him to include work by Franz Liszt. As a result, he was unwilling to take credit for the entire film's score, insisting that he only receive a credit for musical arrangement. Captain Blood premiered in December of 1935, receiving positive reviews and widespread public approval. It was a financial success, making close to $1.5 million in profit for Warner Brothers. Variety praised many aspects of the film, calling Flynn's performance impressive and predicting that the young actor had a big future. Graham Greene, writing for The Spectator, gave the film a lukewarm review, but also described it as the best film he had seen all week. The film was nominated for the Academy Award for Best Picture, Best Music, Best Sound Recording and Best Writing. Now, while not being nominated, Micheal Kurtiz actually received the second most number of votes for Best Director, solely as a write-in candidate, which was the voting method permitted that year. Eric Korngold and Casey Robinson also failed to be nominated, and also received substantially more write-in votes for their work than most of the other official nominees. Captain Blood was adapted as a radio play for Lux Radio Theatre, which was broadcast on February 22nd of 1937, with Flynn, De Havilland and Rathbone all reprising their film roles. The film was trimmed by 20 minutes for its 1947 re-release, and for nearly 50 years this was the only version available until it was restored to its original length for the home video release. Errol Flynn's son Sean later played Captain Blood's son Robert Blood in The Son of Captain Blood, which was released in 1962. It is a film I tried watching, but it didn't last long. It is really bad. In 1994, Warner Brothers announced a remake, but this never eventuated. This is one of the 1001 movies you must see before you die. It made the American Film Institute's list of 400 most heart-pounding American movies and the top 250 film scores. Now, there are so many good reasons to watch this film. Errol Flynn's performance is captivating, as are the action sequences on the high seas. Flynn and De Havilland have an on-screen magnetism they sadly didn't share off-screen, and I must admit there is something appealing about the sword play and the special effects involving the boats in battle. It's a lot of fun. So, what I'd suggest you do is that you go to our website, find our virtual screenings page, find the link to this particular film, click on it and watch it. As always, see what you think. We'd always invite you to come back, let other people know your thoughts about the film and whether you recommend it for them. And then we'll be back again in the not too distant future for our next classic films review. Catch you next time.